All right, welcome to our continuing coverage here on our flagship election program, Kivumbi 2017, and we are still talking about water. We've been to Kajiado County, one of the water-stressed counties in the country. We've spoken to the pundits about 8 o'clock, and right now, let me say this is where the buck stops. So we're speaking to Eugene Wamalwa. He is in charge of water and irrigation, so he'll be giving us some answers here. My name is Joe Ageyo. Let me begin somewhere in Turkana. And the biting water shortage in that county has stirred conflict between the community and their neighbors, including refugees. Turkana residents are now asking the county and national governments to intervene somehow. Elvis Kosgei reports from Turkana.
As we pay tribute to the late Lokarian Angole, a victim of hunger whose story touched many Kenyans and led to the initiative dubbed Kenyans for Kenyans 3 years ago, the problems still persist in this vast region. At Kakuma area in Turkana West, more than 30,000 residents and over 200,000 refugees at Kakuma refugee camp have suffered due to water scarcity. This has become the source of conflict between locals and refugees they host here.
Hata zinataka nini Kenya tusaidie kwa njia ya chakula hata maji kuliko kushare na refugee maji haraka hata sisi tupate yetu. Na sisi tunakombana na Wasudanisi hapa. Ikifika Joni tunapigana hapa hivi kwa juu wa maji.
Sisi kama Wasudi hatunanga matatizo na Waturu.
Residents are worried that waterborne diseases are likely to erupt in the region as some shallow wells which are being dug along the riverbed are being contaminated by human waste.
Dunia inaelekea wapi? Rais wetu, dunia inaelekea wapi? Serikali wangu inaelekea wapi? Tumekwisha. Saidia sisi.
Tunajaribu serikali tusaidie bana. Hii Turkana imekuwa na shida. Mara kura unaomba kura lakini tukingojea tupatiwe maji atuletee maji. Sasa tunaona afadhali hata tukae vile tuko.
At Kataboi Primary School, pupils are forced to miss their classes in search of water. Drought has continued to rear its ugly head in the institution.
Pia tumeshindwa kupeleka watoto kwa shule. Tumeshindwa kupeleka watoto kwa shule. Watoto natamba.
That aside, a section of Kalemngorok residents have raised concern over water shortage. They have to walk miles in search of the rare commodity. Long queues of women and children is a direct indicator of the biting drought.
Hii maji ni maji chumbi, ni maji kali. Nikikunya sikojoi siku mbili. Haya. Watoto ndio hiyo kupea maji naendesha. Nikienda kuomba jirani maji. Mimi sina maji, pesa ya kupea wao maji. Kama una pesa, shauri yako kupwa, enda kupia mtoni.
Kuna maji chumvi, maji ambayo hata ukikunya inaweza kuaffect hata sehemu yako ya kukojoa.
Local leaders are now accusing the county and national government of neglecting them.
I'm also asking IBC people, when you are bringing a machine, when you are bringing a machine, it is devolution. Devolution means services must get to people at their specific areas, especially at this time of hunger. When a mama cannot walk even 500 meters, the best you can do, take the machine to that specific place.
The most unfortunate thing about my county government is, as a member of parliament, I seem to be nowhere in the planning, in the proposals of these priority areas. I'm not anywhere.
Utabiri inaweza kwenda hata mpaka mwaka mzima. Na sasa kama mwaka mzima na serikali nataka kura natapigwa na nani? Na miti ama na jiwe.
Residents are now appealing to the government to intervene before lives are lost. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Kakuma area, Turkana County.
All right. Sad tales there from Turkana County. And Waziri, welcome to the show. And let's just start from there. As the man in charge of water in the country, I know there are many other people who are in charge of different aspects of it, but as I mentioned, the buck does indeed stop somewhere. Article 43 of the Constitution enshrines that every Kenyan has a right to clean water in adequate quantities. How does that make you feel when you see those residents of Turkana?
It's a very saddening experience, and I've been there before, and I've been there severally. And as you are aware, we've had a very severe drought as a country right from last year, the last quarter. And we have been trying to reach out. These haven't been declared by the president as a national disaster, to try and bring relief to those who are affected. In the areas of Turkana and particularly all the other ASAL areas, because of the drought, we have invested heavily in water tracking, trying to take water to the areas affected. But we're also looking at the long term. With the challenge of climate change, we're going to see more drought, more regularly. The severity would increase with time. So we're trying to look at how we can then assume we'll not be having normal rains. And we'll need to look at other resources. We have huge ground resources in Turkana. 2 aquifers discovered about 2 years ago in Napu and Lotikipi.
Nothing much came out of it, though.
The Napu one, we're already utilizing it. The water is fresh, and those who are near Lodwar town are using the water. But we have also started an irrigation project just around the Napu using the aquifer water. But the Lotikipi one, which is even bigger, has salinity issues. As we speak, we have partners from Israel, from the US who are looking at it, and we are working closely with the county government of Turkana to see how we can utilize that water.
I'll talk about how closely you're working with Turkana and, of course, other counties, but are those people justified in being upset with the national government, do you think?
Actually, water services is a devolved function, and the county government is their first line of defense. They have resources, and I think Turkana gets over 10 billion. We recently had the Kenya Water Week, and I was surprised that there are counties that have not prioritized water at all. One of the best performing counties, and we did give an award to the governor for Wajir County. They were dedicating over 1 billion shillings to water. Seeing the situation in Wajir, this governor has done quite a bit.
Yes, Waziri, I know that water is devolved and there's a role for counties, especially in the actual provision of the service.
Correct.
But you do have a role as a national government, a big role at that. As a matter of fact, the Jubilee, then the party gunning for power, did promise certain things about water. In fact, the Jubilee manifesto, if I recall correctly, even talked about using government fiat to fix certain rates and even ensure that people in informal settlements get water for free. I remember that. Now, we are 4 years down the line, and there's still a water problem. So there is a question mark that any Kenyan is justified to ask the national government before we talk about what county governments are doing.
Looking at the conversation that we've just had, the members of parliament in Turkana, there's a clear disconnect between the members of parliament and the county government and the residents. Because, as I've said, water services is a devolved function. It is the duty of the county government to supply water to its residents. As national government, water remains a natural resource and a national resource. Our role is to manage the resource, to develop the resource. And that's why I was talking to you about the groundwater. We started the survey a few years ago and did just about 40,000 square kilometers. And we were able to discover huge deposits of groundwater in Napu and Lotikipi. I was in Turkana recently with the American ambassador, and we were launching now a survey and mapping out of groundwater resource, not just in Turkana. We want to do the entire Marsabit and the entire northern Kenya. That should be able to, eventually, when we do it nationally, be able to give us our national groundwater wealth, which, as we speak, we haven't established yet. So this is where we are going as national government. We want to develop the resource, the groundwater resource, but also because of scarcity of water and the way the rains have been behaving. We are looking at water harvesting and storage. As national government, we are developing dams across the country. In Turkana, we have a dam called Lowat, which is underway, and it will bring relief to the people. When you go to the neighboring Pokot, West Pokot County, we have Sioi Dam. It's a 9 billion dam that the national government has put in. And when you go to the neighboring Marsabit County, we are developing Badassa Dam, and we have over 40 dams across the country.
Yes, I know,
Yes.
Waziri, there's been a lot about dams in this country,
Yes.
and I know even the previous administration had big dams, but that's actually, as a matter of fact, was one of them.
Yes.
But nobody seems to know what you're doing with the dams. And I will just start, for example, with the controversies we have seen with all the big infrastructure projects, such as the one in Murang'a, the Northern Corridor Collector Tunnel.
Yes.
And there were huge complaints about it at a certain point because it appeared that it came out of the blue. And you will tell me, oh, yeah, this is an old project. But let's first of all just listen to a few comments that came from Murang'a regarding the Northern Corridor Collector Tunnel.
This project will lead to severe loss of water on the Tana River, which will lead to drying up of both ground and underground rivers and streams in Garissa, Ukambani, and Tana River Delta. The effects will be so severe that the larger Murang'a, Garissa, and Ukambani and Tana River Delta region will be deserts within 5 years of this project being implemented.
As a county government, he said that we were not involved. I don't know whether he said that because he's part and parcel of the county government, or whether he said that because he's part and parcel of the assembly, or whether he said that because he's a member of Murang'a County community.
Na hiyo mradi is worrying everybody. Na pia nataka kuapili kwa ndugu zangu wa Murang'a na Central Province. Don't just defend. Jiulize, hii mtu anasema na yeye hana interest hapa. Kwa nini anatuambia hii mradi itatuangamisha?
First priority ingekuja kwetu, badala ya hii maji kutolewa na huku, inatolewa huku inapelekwa Nairobi, na sisi wakaaji hapa tunakaa bila maji.
Sasa hii mradi ikiendelea, hapa tutakuwa na shida ya maji juu hata kwenye tulikuwa tunalima na huko Gurumo kutakauka.
We need to renegotiate and renegotiate these terms that we had, so that we can increase the amount of water that is going to the people of Murang'a.
Now, Waziri, I do not want to get into all that discussion. Now, there was a lot of discussion in the country. Yes. You had a press conference, and many other people have talked about it. But my question is, this is a project that began, or at least was conceptualized 20 years ago, and suddenly it blows up, and there's a huge controversy about it. How do we get to a point where something that is supposedly in some master plan somewhere becomes so controversial that at this point I don't even know whether there's anybody who really knows what the truth is about that project?
Joe, I think it's all politics. Let us call a spade a spade. And this being an election year, we are likely to politicize everything. And the only thing I've been urging is that
but which
we should
politics,
not,
Waziri, with respect,
we
because
should not politicize water issues.
As 3 years ago, the county government of Murang'a, the county assembly of Murang'a was discussing this. The current deputy speaker, the senator of Murang'a,
yes,
actually raised serious concerns about this before even Raila Odinga spoke about it. So there was a conversation going on in Murang'a, yes, about this project, meaning that the controversy wasn't just about national politics.
Why I'm saying this is that this project was launched as part of the Nairobi Metropolis Water Master Plan. Nairobi, just like Mombasa, does not have its own water. As you listen to the water CEC speaking about Mombasa, Mombasa gets its water from Kwale, Marere Springs. It gets its water from Baricho, that is in Kilifi. It gets its water from Taita Taveta, which is Nzima. Yeah. Nairobi gets its water from Kiambu.
That's right.
It gets its water from Nyandarua. It gets its water from Murang'a. So part of the master plan that was conceived then, and it was launched by none other than the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, with Charity Ngilu then as the Minister for Water, was the Northern Collector Tunnel. The essence of that project is that whenever it rains and the rivers swell, the waters that flood off to the ocean can actually be tapped and channeled into Ndakaini. Where we are now, Ndakaini is at its lowest. That's why in Nairobi, maybe even in your house, you are getting water rationing. But with extra water recharging Ndakaini, we will never have water rationing in Nairobi. Now, the issue with the Murang'a leaders was in the 70s, when you took our water to Nairobi, when Ndakaini was built, we had no say. But now we do have a say because the Constitution says we must have a say. The people of Murang'a must participate in this. And this is where we were engaging the leadership. And their issue was, if you're going to take 140 million liters of water to Nairobi, what are you giving us?
Which is my worry, that you dismiss this as just politics, and yet this is a legitimate, issue that the Murang'a people themselves were raising, that perhaps the NASA presidential flag bearer or the ODM leader basically tapped into disquiet that was already simmering in Murang'a itself.
Which I would say is politics, because when he was Prime Minister, it was the game changer for Nairobi.
What about the leaders in Murang'a that were raising this before Raila Odinga spoke about it? Do you also dismiss them as
he launched it himself. He launched it himself. So how do you call a project a good project when you're in government?
What about Kembi Gitura?
Then, when you're in the opposition, all of a sudden it becomes a dangerous project.
What about Kembi Gitura?
I call it politics.
Kembi Gitura is a senator of Murang'a.
For the local leadership...
Belongs to Jubilee, by the way.
For the local leadership, they had issues, genuine issues, which we addressed. And they did engage with the stakeholders, and we did agree on, if we have 140 million liters coming to the people of Nairobi, we must at least have water going back to the people of Murang'a. And we have projects that would give about 40 million liters to the people of Murang'a. Some of the projects I've already started launching, and others we will be launching soon. They're complete. When we are talking about the Vision 2030 project, it doesn't matter who is in government now or who will be in government tomorrow. There are projects that must be implemented in order for Kenya to realize its Vision 2030. And Northern Collector is one of them. When we are looking at Mombasa, I've just returned from the coast. Kwale, we have Mwachi Dam. Now, that is another Vision 2030 project that will change the water fortunes of Mombasa. And we have Muzima Springs. When you go to Nakuru, we have Itare Dam.
And I'll come to Itare
Nakuru,
in a moment.
You are looking at about 1 million people who are going to benefit from water coming from Itare. And you will also have Kericho County benefiting. So when you have also...
Itare in a moment, Waziri. But my issue is that you have a project like the Murang'a one that, as you say, is a big project, important for Nairobi, but it doesn't seem to me that the public participation that is anticipated in our constitution, that is now a pillar of most legislations around the world, took place in the right way, because a few months after what happened here, we saw the county assembly, even in Tana River, saying, hey, what's happening up there is going to affect us. So
because of the politics, because of the politics.
But is public participation working? Because you mentioned the Itare Dam, and we know for a fact that even there, the Kipsigis Council of Elders went to court to challenge this project. We know that they've since been joined by the Luo Council of Elders, the Gusi Cultural something. So how can it be that just about every project of this nature suddenly runs into trouble, even though you said there are projects that were envisioned a long time ago?
I think any major infrastructural project is likely to run into headwinds. And the biggest danger we're facing as a country today, and why we might have countries like Ethiopia moving ahead of us, is because of these challenges. They're both legal challenges facing all our Vision 2030 projects, and lately political challenges coming from those who are in government, those who launched these same projects, those who understand what Vision 2030 means and the importance of implementation of these projects.
Ethiopia is very close. I mean, a lot of Kenyans will be worried if you were to wish that would be like
they're going ahead, but of course our laws are different. For us, we cannot take your land and build on it unless we have compensated you. Our laws are very different. And that's why we have a lot of litigation, challenges from Kenyans. But our appeal is to the leadership, because if we politicize some of these issues, if we incite communities, and water is a very sensitive issue, just like land, it's a very emotive issue, and it was Boutros Ghali who said the Third World War would actually be fought over water. So it's very easy to incite a community to say, these people are taking your water. Do not allow the water to go to those people in Nakuru. But though we know Nakuru is a cosmopolitan town.
Every indication, Waziri, seems to be that the conversation about Itare Dam was mainly in Nakuru and a little bit in Narok. Yet, Itare Dam, if you were to talk about the fears that many people have expressed, that it could have an impact on the entire basin that feeds Lake Victoria, for instance, that means that if anything that touches on the Mau, you're basically talking about the Lake Victoria Basin. And when you start talking about Lake Victoria Basin, you're talking about many other counties. And therefore, there may have been politics, and that is normal, but there are also genuine issues that people are raising, that if this is going to likely affect us, someone ought to talk to us, isn't it? Do you believe that Itare conversation was broad enough?
I think, first of all, you must understand for a project of over 30 billion, and institutions like the World Bank, like the ADB, they will not put in money in a project where feasibility studies have not been carried out, where environmental impact assessment has not been done. As we speak, Itare started many years ago, over 20 years. A lot of research has gone into this. And even the design itself, the money that paid for the design of Itare was paid by the last government, actually. 100 million shillings came from taxpayers when Kibaki was president, when Raila was prime minister, when Kalonzo Musyoka was vice president. This money was paid towards Itare. What we are coming in to do is to implement every Vision 2030 project, and we expect any government coming in, whether it is us or another government coming in, they will be tasked by Kenyans to implement these Vision 2030 projects. They are very well chosen projects, very well researched. They are game changers in terms of the infrastructure development. And the question is, how do we overcome the challenges that are standing in the way of this project for us to implement them? They're serious issues. We have gone out of our way, Joe, to engage the communities. We have, and public participation is ongoing. We have been to Kericho, we have been to Nakuru, we have been to Muranga, and anywhere where there have been genuine concerns. We're not taking them lightly because we know how emotive the issues are. But we want to assure them, before NEMA issues a license, before WARMA issues a permit for obstruction of water, they must be satisfied about all the scientific hydrological surveys that have gone into that for them to issue that license.
Well, NEMA
has cleared...
NEMA issues a lot of permits that become extremely controversial later.
Well, what we're talking about is a mega project that has taken years.
My point, Waziri, is that fine, the World Bank may have cleared it and everything, but I do think that there ought to be a certain role, isn't it, of the national government in informing the people to begin with, engaging them. As a matter of fact, the public participation guidelines that govern management of different things in the country speak exactly of that, informing people and then engaging them, trying to find some sort of consensus in the end. But it looks to me like we go ahead, and then when people complain, then we engage.
No, we have been engaging. Like the Muranga one, it's an ongoing thing. I think the only thing that raised the temperatures was when Raila Odinga came in. Because we're equally surprised. He's the same person who launched the project. But when he came in and widened the debate to Garissa, all the way to Tana River, and basically sending fear into communities downstream, without looking at the facts, because obstruction from the river even as you're talking about Itare, we have experts who are showing that not all rivers are going to be affected. We have one river called Itare where we are obstructing, and the levels allowed by Warma cannot affect Sondu Miriu. It cannot affect the Lake Victoria Basin as such. And these we have facts, and we have put everything there.
But do the people there know?
Yes, we have been engaging them. But when politicians come in, of course, the temperatures rise. And we have been able to lay everything before the courts. The matter is ongoing in court. I believe facts don't lie. And in due course, the people will get to know the truth. And for Murang'a, they had genuine issues. They felt, and when you listen to the leaders, they are saying, we are not saying no to the project, but we are saying we need to renegotiate. We need to get more out of it. This time, Nairobi should not take our water and we get nothing out of it. And they had, as representatives of the people of Murang'a, they had genuine issues. We are addressing them, and we're ensuring that the people of Murang'a will get water just as the people of Nairobi get water. Yes.
Okay, great. Let me talk about Suake Dam, which has also become controversial. It looks like every dam becomes controversial. But this one was interesting because the tender was awarded to the second lowest bidder, as I understand it, a company that some people say had been blacklisted by the World Bank. And you seem to be on a different side of this conversation, but your peers at the time, who have since been moved, seem to have overruled everybody, including yourself. That was quite strange, Waziri. Is that how things happen in government?
Not really, not really. I think what was in question was really the legalities of the tendering process, which is guided by our laws, the procurement laws. And the law requires that the lowest evaluated bidder should be awarded unless there are issues. So in this case, the difference between the lowest evaluated bidder and the second lowest was about 3 billion. And
no small change.
Yes, no, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the procurement went on. The matter went to the board for review. Being a judicial process, as a ministry, we let them do their work. And I'm very pleased to tell Kenyans tonight that the legal issues was resolved.
But you did tell Parliament that your views were ignored, that as a matter of fact, the PS ignored even advice from the AG and from the tendering committee within the ministry itself.
Yes.
Isn't that the case?
No, he's the accounting officer, so eventually he'll have to make a judgment call, which he did. And the matter was challenged legally in court. And when the Public Procurement Review Board looked at the issue, they made a ruling on the matter, saying that the contract should have been awarded to the lowest evaluated bidder. So those are the legalities. It's unfortunate that they delayed the project, but as we speak tonight, I want to assure the people of Makueni and Kitui and Machakos County that the legal issues have now been resolved. We also had a second issue on compensation. Compensation, we had about 1.5 billion. We have to, it's a very big dam, so we had to displace quite a number of families. But in the process of compensating, we realized there were people who are requesting for more money than what had been budgeted for.
But this issue was there. Some people said it smelt of corruption, that even if someone did not quite put a finger on what it is, the EACC, for example, advised against this, the awarding of the tender to this company, simply on those suspicions that this was against the law, this was not how tendering is supposed to be, procurement is supposed to be done in government. And yet, nothing happened to this officer we are talking about apart from being moved to another ministry. How can anyone believe that the government is serious about its pledge to the people to enhance accountability in the management of water in the country, and yet someone who has been found by everybody to have flouted the laws is simply moved to some other place?
I think the matter was considered at length by the relevant judicial body, and it has now been determined. So it's really water under the bridge, and what we're saying is that moving forward, we must look at the needs of the people of Makueni, Kitui, and Machakos County. They have been waiting for this dam for, it's another Vision 2030 project that's taken almost 20 years. And where we are now, we are at the tail end of it. Once we complete the resettlement issue, we want to have this dam launched officially. And it's a dam that will serve 1.3 million people across Kitui, Makueni, all the way to Konza Techno City. So we believe it will be a game changer. Apart from this, it will also be helping in irrigation about 100,000 acres. So we are looking at a multi-purpose dam that also has a hydro component. So all these put together will transform the lives of people of the entire Lower Eastern region. Yes.
All right, Waziri, just hold your thoughts for the moment. We're going to take a short break here on Kivumbi 2017. When we come back, we'll speak to Waziri about this issue of dams. Why dams? Why don't we try something else? Or maybe not, after the break.